Hi, and a very warm welcome to the Templates for Change Harmonizing with Nature 10-minute contemplations. My name is Christine Thompson, and I'm going to be talking through this particular contemplation. It's called Where Do You Call Home? A very simple question, but I think it's going to take us on quite an interesting journey. Well, home sweet home. What a lovely, lovely phrase. And I wonder, when you think of home, what sort of mental pictures come to mind? This particular one happens to be my own garden, which I think is one of the first images which is conjured up in my own mind when I begin to think of that very special place we call home. But perhaps you think more of your house, or your family, or your friends. Because home is something that is made up of many, many different components. You might be living in a flat in the city, a place in the country, northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, all sorts of different places that make up part of what we all call home. And isn't it such an evocative word? It really is something rather special. Perhaps it extends in one's mind to the district or the town where someone lives. And you'll often hear somebody say, "Oh, I'm a London man." Or, with a different sort of accent and different language, "I'm a Parisian." Or from Sydney, or wherever it might happen to be. And I think particularly if you go back a few hundred years, this was very much where a person's point of identity lay, with the village, with the hamlet. Because of course, travel as we know it today is a very 21st century, well perhaps 20th stroke 21st century way of going on. A few hundred years back, it was only the rich or the particularly well educated or somebody rather unusually placed who would travel further afield. And amazingly enough, here in the UK, where I myself happen to live, one needed a passport to move from one village to another. Hard for us to imagine today, when our thinking is so much wider. Well, perhaps you think about the country or the continent where you live. And this is particularly true if one's travelling and mixing with people from different parts of the world. You know, someone says, "Oh, where are you from?" And the first thing you think, "Oh, I'm from Australia, I'm from the UK, I'm from South Africa," wherever it might happen to be. It locates a place on the map for somebody who doesn't actually know you. And this, I think, is probably something many of us have actually experienced. Well, perhaps your mind moves more towards being a citizen of the planet. Many of us today feel this increasingly. And perhaps ironically, it's some of the problems of the world, things like pollution, things like climate change, have brought home to all of us the reality that we are indeed very interdependent. But perhaps even more excitingly are some of the discoveries in quantum physics, which is now confirming what so many religions of the past have known, particularly the spiritual traditions of the East, who have understood that indeed we are all part of one human family. We're all citizens of the planet. You might say world citizens. All of us affecting each other. All with a very particular part to play within the greater picture. But why stop there? Why don't we take one step further and expand our mind right out into the universe? There's a thought. Now, our planet, our solar system, is a small part of the universe. And the country in which we live is an even smaller part. And of course, the district itself is absolutely tiny. So, here's the ponder, here's the contemplation. Our home is part of a district which is inside a country, which is one part of the planet. And our lovely blue planet is itself part of the universe. And doesn't this just remind you a little bit when you were a child and you wrote down your address? I wonder how many of us listening have had this very experience. I remember it quite well myself. You start with the house in which you live, then the street, then the town, then the county, then the country, and you keep going as far as your mind will take you. What a very natural instinct on the part of kids. So in truth, we do all live within the universe, which is truly our greater home. And I wonder how far our sense of belonging can expand. And the more time one spends dwelling with these very simple truths, allowing one's mind to stretch a little, and even better, going outside of an evening when the stars are out and contemplating that greater home in which we all live, inside which we are all supported. Now, what an extraordinary thing as a human being to be such a tiny, tiny part of something so enormous, but with a consciousness that has the ability to encompass the whole. So thank you very much for joining us today. If you would like to find out more about what we do in TFC, then do drop into the website. It's www.templatesforchange.org. Bye for now.